Okay, now that you have been introduced to databases, we're on the On Your Own, which is slide 25, and we're going to use the fast food nutrition database to complete this activity. So be sure you've downloaded that spreadsheet into your ACA folder for access. We're going to use that spreadsheet to import data into an Access database. So download that first, and then let's hop into Access. We're going to go to create a blank database for this one, and then you're going to want to make sure that you put that blank database in your folder. So don't just hit OK here or create here. We're going to browse, and we're going to put this database in our folder. So go to your ACA folder for the class, go to your Access folder, and then we're going to put this in here, and you can call it food if you'd like. Something like that will work. Then we're going to put that in this folder. Okay, again, if you have not already, you're going to make sure that you have downloaded the data file. So you should have downloaded the fast food nutrition file. And again, you want to put that in your Access folder. It won't show up when you're looking at Access files because these are Excel spreadsheets. Okay, so once we're in here, then we're ready to import the information into this spreadsheet. We honestly can just delete this table so that we can just start from scratch because we are going to be pulling in information from elsewhere. And now, since we didn't create this information in here, we're going to use the External Data tab to go get this information. So we're going to go to External Data, and then in the group that says Import and Link, we're going to pull in that data source that we already have from File, and it's an Excel file, so we're going to choose that. And then you're going to have to browse. So click on Browse. Again, back to your Access folder, and we're going to pull in the fast food document. And then it says import this into a new table in the database, which is what we want to do. So go ahead and click OK there. Now notice in here that we have all of these things in here. We have our companies, we have categories, we have products, we have a bunch of numbers. What we don't have is a unique identifier. We don't have like a primary key. Pizza Hut doesn't have a code, and it needs to. So we're going to do a couple of things here. As we're importing this, we're going to say, hey, our first row does have headings, company, category, and product. That's correct. And then in here, we can specify what each of these categories are. So company is text. Yeah. Category is text. Yeah. Pretty much everything is text because even the numbers over here, well, this one's not. This one has grams, so that's going to be text because you can't do anything about that one. But these don't have G's after them. These are all going to be number files. And so it'll tell you data type double, that's a number. Just that's how they classify those. So you can let all of those be as they go all the way across. We go to next. Here's where we have to say, let Access give us a primary key because we don't have one in here. So we can't choose one. Now, if we were adding people's names and they had social security numbers, we would say choose my own, and we choose the one that said like social security number or student ID, but we don't. So let Access add a primary key. It's going to put an auto number here, and we're going to hit next. And then it's got a name. And typically here you could choose what you want to call this thing. That's up to you, but you can just leave it alone. So I'll just let it say nutrition value data set, but you could name that to something else and then hit close. We don't need to save steps. And now we're going to have that in here. Now, notice that you may have two, and I'll make this bigger so you can see. This is import errors, which says basically there are a couple of rows that didn't have information and it deleted them, which is fine. We're going to right click and delete that table with the import errors. And then now if we open it up, we have this table that if you look down here on the record count, tells you that we have 530 records in this. So we have 530. Okay. Now again, we're on slide 25. We have imported the data, and now we're going to create our first query. Now before we do, I want you just to take a minute to get familiar with the table, right? So we know we have an auto number field. We now have a company. There's categories, which all of these categories pretty much say hot breakfast, all meal. Like they're very different from company to company. So it's probably not a category we'll use for anything. Same thing with product name. If we look at that, these are going to be way different from thing to thing, right? The things that are going to be similar everywhere are going to be the calories and then the carbohydrates and such like that. And then, of course, some of them don't have that information because they didn't include it. So we have to kind of look at that data and be like, we probably don't need to run anything on, fiber because not all of these have a measurement for fiber, for example. Okay, now we're going to create a parameter query. So I'm going to close out of this. I'll save changes. All I did was resize some columns, but I'll save that. Slide 25 tells us to create a parameter query to show the company and the product name. So we're going to create a query. So we only have one table. I'm going to be clicked on it, and you're going to go to the Create tab, and you're going to go in here to either Query Wizard or Query Design. I'm going to have you go into Query Design. So we're going to go in here, and then down here at the bottom, we need to put in the fields that we're going to run a query for. A query is asking the table a question to get answers. Okay? So in this example, it tells you to create a query to show the company and the product. So you can type in the restaurant name. So we want to show the company and the product. Well, right now we can't even see the table to do that. So on the right-hand side, it says Add Tables. Now, if you don't have that, over here on the side, we have the property sheet. And then also over here on the side, we have the Add Tables button that will bring that up here on the side. Now, I'll show you the property sheet in a moment, but we have Add Tables here so we can see this on Query Design, and we're going to just double-click it to put it on this list. And I'm going to drag down so we can see all the fields. And then now we can choose the fields we need. And the instructions say company. So I'll just double click it and then product. So I'm just going to double click it. We want to show both of those. If I run this query right now, we can see the company and the product for all 530 of those records. However, that's not all I want to do. Right? So we're going to go back into Design View, flip right back. And then in here, we're doing a parameter query. A parameter query is a query where it asks you a question. A box pops up. Okay? So we want to tell it, ask us what restaurant we want. So where it says criteria, inside the square brackets, those are to the right of the letter P. If you look on the slide, you'll kind of see a picture of them. You're going to put your question. What restaurant? What restaurant? I have to say that in my head to know how to spell it. So you put that in the criteria line for the company. So it's going to ask us for the company, what are we looking for? Okay. Now, if I go and hit run to run this query, it's going to ask me what restaurant. And if I type in Pizza Hut and hit OK, I should get all the Pizza Hut stuff, which there's 144 of. Okay. Now, I need to save this query, and again, you can keep going back and forth, but if you need to save the query, you either close it and it'll prompt you, or I always right-click it. Right-click the query one name and hit save. And this one we're going to call Nutrition Parameter Query. I'm going to hit OK. There we go. So if I was trying to look for, how many calories are you looking for? So if I was looking for something that was like under 500 calories, I might choose one of those categories, like here, energy is calories. And then I might put in how many are you looking for as my question. And then when I type in, I could say less than 500 or whatever. Okay, we'll close that one. Slide 26 tells us to create a report. So while we're using the table, so I'm clicked on the table, we're going to create a report. So create, and then we're going to go to the report wizard, which is easier because if there's more than one table, and here there's a table and a query, we can see both. And then on the left-hand side, it tells us the fields, so it just makes it a little faster than having to drag them all down and open up the table and all of that. We want company, product, energy, and then we're going to group it on company in a minute. So we've got these all picked. We're going to hit next. It says, do you want to group it? We're going to say company, and we're going to hit this arrow to scoot it over. So basically it puts all Pizza Huts together instead of putting the word Pizza Hut, Pizza Hut, Pizza Hut 144 times. Okay? You're going to click next. If we want to sort it, I like to sort usually in alphabetical order by product. You can put that. Now in your prompts for your activities that you'll do for Sam, always pay attention to what it wants it sorted by. And then we're going to click next. Here's where, if you were doing a project, it might tell you to put landscape or different layout next. And then here's where you give it a name. So we can name this Fast Food Report. Fast Food Report, and hit Finish. And then the report should open up. Notice we can see Burger King, we can see the product, we can see this next portion. Now, slide 27, you're going to modify the design of this. So we're in print preview initially when you start a report. So we're going to close that view out. That takes us to this crazy design view. And the design view in here is a little hard to manage, but you can notice here that I can see that my title is getting cut off over here. This is a lot easier to fix though in layout view. So switch to layout view. And then in here, you can just grab a hold of the edges of stuff and either pick them up. I like to use my arrow key on the keyboard to like scoot things over because I just feel like it's easier. Or if you need to like pull the edges of something or pull down or whatever, you can do that all from within here. Okay, so that's how you're going to do that. So you can modify the way that those are looking on the page. A lot of times too, you'll notice that like a header or a footer might be cut off. And if you see that, that's going to be a problem. So you can fix all of those things there as well. Okay, so that's that. Now again, I can go back into that design view if I wanted to change like what's in the footer or any of that information too. You can also change the colors under format. So if you didn't want this to be this blue color here, you could change that. When you're clicked on these things, you'll see like over here, there's different color options. You just can't see them, so it's a lot different than dealing with like Word. Easier to just right click and then you can go through and choose your colors that way. Notice here it says shape fill, so that's where that color's coming from. If you wanted to change the font, again, just click on it, come up to your font box, choose your font, and then you may have to resize your box to make space. You can also put pictures in here. If you download a picture and you want to add an image, you can do that as well up in this top portion. Okay, so we'll right click save and then we can close. So now we have a table, we have a query that's going to ask us what restaurant, and we have a report for this one. Now, certainly you should take time to practice trying some other things based on this data. So I would like for you to run a query on some things. Now, you don't want to have your table open when you do, but I'm looking here just so we can see like what are some things we could do. So fat, total fat. So some of these numbers are pretty high. Let's say I wanted to see anything that had more than 25 fat, right? So create, and then we're going to go to query. You can do design or wizard. We'll just do wizard this time. Simple query. I'm going to go to my table and say I want to have the company, the product, and the fat as my three things. And then just hit next here. And then I'm going to call it fat query. That sounds kind of bad. Fat query and finish. And here they are. And then we're going to go into that query design view. So back to home, back to design view. And then in here, we're going to put our criteria. So if I want to say fat, so criteria, let's say greater than 30. That's going to be greater than 30 grams of fat. Now if I run it, we can see all of these items that are greater than 30. There's 38 of them. Maybe you're like, you know, let's go even bigger. Let's say greater than 40 and see how many we get. Well, in this case, we only get 12. So, yeah, that's probably a good one. So I'm going to save it and close it. And let's say now we want to rename it because we know this is greater than 40. So I'm going to close it. Then find the query, fat query here, right click and rename. And so I can say fat over 40 grams query, for example there. Okay. I would like for you to also run some additional queries in here and then take one of your queries and run a report and add an image at the top of that report. Okay. Good luck to you. I hope you're starting to get the hang of databases. Now your last slide, slide 28, is going to tell you when you're done with the database, instead of just hitting the X in the corner, click on File and then Info and then Compact and Repair. That will close everything. You may have to click Enable Content, but always do that.